Welcome to another episode of Empowered. My name is Luis Carlos Estrada, and today I have a very special guest, Mr. Frank Pollack, who is the offensive line coach of the Cincinnati Bengals. How are you doing today, Frank?
Doing great. How are you?
Doing good, doing good. Well, first of all, thank you for accepting the invitation to Empowered, and I hope you enjoy this episode.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
So, first of all, like for those people who don't know you, can you please introduce yourself? Like, who are you, and what are these kind of things that you're doing right now that people should know?
Okay. Well, I'm the offensive line coach for the Cincinnati Bengals. This is my fourth year there. I've been coaching in the NFL since 2007. Coached 2 years before that at college at Northern Arizona University, my alma mater. It's where I went to school and played. I played football there. I was drafted in the sixth round by the San Francisco 49ers in 1990. Played 8 years in the NFL, was fortunate enough to be a part of a Super Bowl winning team, Super Bowl 29 in 1994. A lot of fun, and really been coaching for the most part ever since.
Tell me about how did your journey in football start? Like, was it something that you liked since you were a child, or how was it?
Yeah, I've always been passionate about football ever since I was a little kid. My folks and my aunt tell a story when I was like 3 years old on a plane trip with my aunt taking me cross country. I wore a football helmet, wouldn't take it off, and ate through the face mask. My meal
Yeah.
on the plane. So I've always been a football guy. Started playing football in fourth grade. Um, and just loved it. It's something that I've just always been passionate about, and this is something that always dreamed about doing was playing professionally and then coaching when I was done. So I'm living a dream.
And you were here in NAU for 4 years, or for how long? As
Yeah,
a player.
I went to school at NAU for 5 years, and then I coached here for 2 years.
Okay. And when you were a player here, how was your experience? What do you remember from these years?
Oh, it was a blast. Coach Quintera was our head coach. I had him my entire time. It's fantastic, old school coach. But he brought the best out of all of us. And in fact, I'll be having lunch with him later this week. He's 98 years old, still
Wow.
living strong, living down in the valley. Very fortunate to have a lot of good coaches. I had Bill Callahan and Andy Reid were my line coaches while I was in school here. I also had Marty Schetzel, was a longtime head coach in college, as well as my line coach up here. A couple other NFL coaches that came through here when I was here. Brad Childress was our offensive coordinator. Tom Melvin's been a longtime tight end coach. Um, Marty Morningwig was a head coach for a little while, was also a coach up here during that time. Steve Hagan, longtime NFL coach, was an assistant coach on that staff. So I was very fortunate. We had a great staff and met a lot of great friends, a lot of good teammates, a lot of good memories.
Do you remember that time when you realized I have the talent to make it to the NFL? Because like there's a lot of players who have the dream to become a pro football player, but not everyone is capable. Not everyone has the talent. Do you remember that time when you were like, I think that I have the talent, and if I work hard enough, I can make it to the NFL? Do you remember that time?
Yeah, I want to say about my junior year was when I realized that I had the baseline talent that maybe have a chance to make it in the league, and you start getting correspondence from teams when they're scouting you. Back then,
Mhm.
a little bit more archaic than how it's done now, but filling out questionnaires, trying to gather your information, and then as scouts came through, hearing that they were wanting to get tape on me and learn more about me, and so you start to realize, wow, this might come to fruition. This might be legit. So, but I'd say it was probably about my junior year in college.
What were some of your best qualities as a player?
Probably my athleticism, quick feet, being a smart player. Um, I wasn't really the biggest guy. I had good size for at the time, but really my quicks and athleticism, I could pull and run in space for a lineman. And when I got drafted by the 49ers, that was a big part of our offense, pulling and getting guys out running. We were a little bit more undersized as an offensive line. for that era with the 49ers back then. But I'd say that's probably were my biggest attributes.
Mhm. Do you remember some of the most important challenges that you had to face when you were trying to put yourself into the next level, when you were trying to become the best version of yourself as a football player? Because I assume that there would be like, or that there was like plenty challenges as a player, not only physically, but also mentally, or like dealing with players, with coaches. What can you tell me about it based on your experiences?
Yeah, for me, it was overcoming some injuries. My junior year, I had a shoulder problem, and it eventually I couldn't play anymore during my junior season. And about 3/4 of the way, I had to have shoulder surgery. I got a big screw in there holding it together still to today.
Mhm.
And so so I missed I'd probably say the last I want to say 5 games, 4 games of my junior year, and then I came back for my senior year and broke my ankle and tore all my ligaments in my right ankle the very first game. So I was fortunate I got what they call a medical hardship because I never redshirted. That was my 4th year. So I came back for my 5th year as a medical hardship. So having to overcome that injury, and at the end of the day, they were really blessings in disguise because, like I said, I was a smaller, undersized guy. It gave me another year to develop more physically, get a little bit more bigger, a little stronger. And so really at the end of the day, it was just overcoming those injuries and getting myself in position to being able to play.
Now moving to another topic. Now, okay, we already talked about your life before becoming a pro football player. Now let's talk about that time when you got drafted by the 49ers and how was the process before making it to the NFL when you just got drafted by the 49ers?
Yeah, well, it was exciting. I mean, it not quite the pomp and circumstance they have now around the draft. They had maybe 2 hours of the first day with the first 2 rounds on TV. Other than that, it was never really on TV. But so I actually found out that I got drafted. Um, the round that I got drafted in was the 6th round, but back then they had 12 rounds, and they had gone through the 6th round, gone into the 7th round, gone into the 8th round, and I'm like, oh my god, I thought I was supposed to get drafted by now, so I was a little disheartened. And they had gone through those picks, and I had to come to my agent's office the next morning. It was like early Monday morning. They still had the last three rounds to go, and he's calling all the teams that showed interest. He called the Washington Redskins. Charlie Casserly was the GM at the time, saying, "Hey, you guys said you like Frank Pollack. He's still available." He goes, "What do you mean? What do you mean?" He goes, "Well, you said pre-draft you had some interest. He's still available." He goes, "No, he's not. He got drafted by the Niners yesterday in the 6th round." And he goes, "He did?"
Wow.
He goes, "We haven't heard." And he goes, "Well," so he calls the Niners to confirm, and he goes, "Yeah, we drafted him, but we've been working on a trade, and we didn't have a chance to call him." So it just shows you how far the drafts come along. But it was a good lesson for me to learn too right away. Welcome to the business of pro football. Never take yourself too serious, and everyone's replaceable. So even in that moment, but that was fun to get drafted. And then my rookie year in training camp, we had a couple guys holding out for bigger contracts, so it provided me an opportunity to practice and play a lot more as a rookie. And I remember we had a real big scrimmage, and we practiced up in Sacramento, which is real similar to Phoenix in the summertime. It gets above 100 degrees. It was pretty hot. And I was dying in the huddle after a long drive and scrimmage. And the head coach, George Seifert at the time, walks in the huddle and right in the middle of the huddle and says, "Come on, Frank Pollack, all your life you dreamed about playing in the NFL. Here's your chance." And I'm like, oh, I got a burst of energy, of course, then, right? So I finished the practice, and he walks off the field with me, and he says, "You know what? Because you're not on scholarship anymore, because you're earning and fighting for a job. Never forget that." Now, so that was an eye opener as well, as a reminder that it's a business, and you got to take advantage of every opportunity that you can. So that was my biggest eye opener as my rookie year in training camp and my draft experience.
I don't know how it works in football, but in baseball, for example, once you got drafted, or if you just sign the contract, you got a bonus, and then you have to go to the Dominican Republic and then to Arizona and stuff like that. And it generally takes like 4 years to make it to the majors. How does it work in football? Because I genuinely don't know. You got drafted, and then how much time or for how long were you in the minors, or how, I don't know how it's called in football.
Yeah, they don't have the minors. They don't have minor leagues in pro football. Basically, that's what college football is. So they draft you, and usually the higher you're drafted, the more chances you're going to have at having success and opportunities to showcase and make the team and so forth. And the lower the rounds that you're drafted in or free agent, the shorter the leash, if you will, the less opportunities. So you got to take advantage of those opportunities. Um, so the NFL, like I said, there is no minor league. So you get drafted, and basically what's typical is teams will tend to give you a 2-3 year window. You play out your rookie contract, and if you haven't proven yourself to stick around, then you're either going to get traded or waived, and
Mhm.
they're always looking for someone else younger to replace the roster with. So
Yeah,
that's just the nature of the beast.
exactly. It's part of the business, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And when you were in the 49ers, you won the Super Bowl. Can you tell me about that experience, how it was?
Yeah, it was exciting. My career, I was mainly a backup role player. My career, that season, I had 4 starts that were pretty pivotal for us, and so that was a lot of fun to contribute that season that much. And just we had lost to the Cowboys the previous couple of years in the NFC Championship game. Gotten close. Those 2 previous years. So getting over the hump, beating them at home in the NFC Championship game was really huge. Everyone thought that was really the Super Bowl was the NFC Championship game. It's such a big game and rival against the Cowboys at the time, and then we played the Chargers in Miami. It was a blowout. It was the best kind of Super Bowl wins. No pressure, no stress. So it was pretty much over by halftime. So that was fun, not having to have the close nail biting game. We had that the previous game, the NFC Championship game. So it was exciting, and of course the big party afterwards was a lot of fun, with your teammates, and my family was there, and enjoying and relishing that experience, and just knowing that you're a part of history. Your name's on the side of that trophy with all your teammates forever. So it's kind of a neat thing.
Do you remember who performed in the halftime show that year?
Yeah, Gloria Estefan in the Sound Machine was the big halftime performer. Of course, we
Okay,
don't
okay.
we don't watch that. We're in the locker room at halftime, but my family got to partake and enjoy themselves
Nice.
for that.
And when you were playing in the Super Bowl, what would you say were the most important challenges before the game, during the game, and how did that impact you? Like
Yeah, I
all
mean
the pressure, all the challenges that you had to face during that period of time.
yeah, it's really is just keeping your focus. You're there for a whole week, so you got a lot of distractions. Um, you really get 2 weeks of prep work, to practice. So really, there when you're there at the Super Bowl site, that last week is just kind of putting the icing on the cake, and it's just really, excuse me, keeping yourself focused, not getting caught up in the distractions that's going on in the city around
Mhm.
the Super Bowl. That you're there not to partake and have that experience. So you got to wait till after the game. Keep your mind on the task at hand, and kind of you know visiting with your family early in the week, and then saying, hey, now I gotta lock myself in a hotel room and get focused. And I remember us having some team discussions around how much how much fun time we should have and when that should stop, what point in the week. And so we were a team of veterans that year, and a lot of guys, the older guys, had won a couple Super Bowls a few years back. So my rookie year, was the year that we tried to have a three-peat season. They had won back-to-back Super Bowls, beating the Bengals and Broncos. And my rookie year, we lost to the Giants on a last-second field goal in the NFC Championship game. So there's a lot of veterans on that roster that had been to the Super Bowl, and we had a few new guys as well. And then just showing them, telling them that this is how you need to do it and prepare yourself to win this thing. We didn't come here to lose it. So that was really, in essence, the biggest challenge, if you will, as a player during that time.
Yeah, now moving to the last part of this episode, I would like to talk about your coaching career.
Yeah.
You were with the Cowboys, with the Jets. Now you're the offensive line coach with the Bengals. Can you tell me about how do you decide to transition from player to a coach?
Yeah. Well, like I said, it's my passion. And if I can't play anymore, the next best thing is coaching, in my opinion. Being a part of the game, competing, and love sharing and helping guys develop and reach their goals. That's real exciting. And just love the competition. The NFL is extremely competitive, and you got to be at your best as a player and a coach to have success. And so I knew coaching football was something I always wanted to get involved in when I was done playing, whether that was in college or pro. Naturally, pro football is at the pinnacle as far as the competition is concerned. So I've been real fortunate enough. I started off in Houston as an assistant O-line coach, and then went to the Raiders for 1 year as a line coach, then jumped over to Dallas. And like you mentioned, then went to Cincinnati, to New York for the Jets, and then came back to Cincinnati. It's kind of my career. So, like everything, just knowing people, in the coaching circles to kind of get your foot in the door. Me being an ex-player in the league helped a ton to get my foot in the door. And then once you get in there, you got to perform and produce and bring value add and to stick around. So I've been real fortunate to learn and work with some great coaches along the way to help me develop as a coach, and making that transition from the player side to a coach. And every year you're continually learning and expanding in your skill set and knowledge of the game. And that's something I really enjoy. I mean, there's an old saying, if you find something that you really are passionate about and love, you'll never work a day in your life. And I've been really fortunate about that.
And how do you measure your success? Because like I know that, of course, like the more games you win, like the better you look, of course, as a coach as well. But there should be like another different measures. For example, like in 2022, you made it to the Super Bowl. And yeah, I would like to know more about how your supervisors in this case can say, okay, Frank is doing great, Frank needs to improve. Like, how do they measure your success?
Yeah, I mean, it's really a couple of different things. Obviously, number one is the team success. Number one, it's a team sport, and you're part of that, contributing to that team success. So how are we producing and performing as a team? And then your unit. So I'm in charge of the offensive line. So we really touch a lot of the offense, So there's 11 guys on the field. I've got 5 of them in my room. So almost half the entire offense I'm coaching. So, and I'm in charge of the run game, being the run game coordinator. So I put together the run game on a weekly basis as well. So, really it's just judged on our production and how productive we are from an offensive standpoint. Obviously, we contribute to that, throwing the ball, but also running the ball, and how your room develops, how your young guys develop, how much of cohesiveness do they perform at? Are they able to adjust? Your guys, you need really to have 5 guys play as one, as a unit. It's really a team within the team. So that's another big way that offensive line coaches are gauged and evaluated.
Okay, Frank, 2 more questions before we finish this episode. And there is a question that most of the time I ask to all of my guests, because this is also like a business podcast, right? So How do you keep track of your finances and how do you manage your personal finances when it comes to income, expenses, investments? How do you manage all of that?
Yeah. Well, it another team approach there as well. I've been married for 30 years to a lovely lady. My wife's fantastic. She obviously is a big part of that, managing our finances together. I have a software program that I've always used. I've been an early adapter with computers. Um, I've been using that since the early 90s, that same software system, to help me manage budget and manage my investments and keep track of everything. I was kind of fortunate enough, with my dad teaching me some things from a personal finance standpoint. I remember him sitting me down after my rookie year as a player and making
Mhm.
me go through where I spent all my money that year. And there was quite a few amount, quite a bit amount of money I couldn't remember where it went. It was an eye opener. He's like, you need to have a budget and take this a little bit more serious. So it was a little bit of an eye opener. I was fortunate enough to have a dad that kind of steered me along the same direction or along the right path to do that. And then you talk with older veterans who are walking the same journey you are, how they do things. I was very fortunate. I had a couple older guys sit me down and show me how they did things and who was their investment advisor and how they look to manage their personal finances. And like everything, you got to read and do your own research and really educate yourself to get a general understanding, at least to get yourself pointed in the right direction and know where's a good place to get further help in those areas. So
You have been in football your entire life, but at this point of your career as a coach, what are you looking forward right now at this point of your career? What can we expect from Frank Pollack in the future?
well, you can expect me to continue to grind to go get some more Super Bowl rings. I've got three boys. I've got one Super Bowl ring and one second place ring. I like to get two more Super Bowl rings. So all three of my boys have one to remember their dad by.
Yeah,
So
right.
that's what I'm chasing. I'm chasing some more Super Bowl wins for my boys. But I mean, that's what you expect me. I'm working on projects this summer here in Arizona, getting myself ready for the season. And
Mhm.
that's like I said again, it's your passion, so it's something you like to always do every day. Is dabble in it a little bit every day.
Yeah, Frank, thank you so much for your time. There are two things that I always do with all my guests. The first one is I already asked you a ton of questions. Ask me one or two questions about whatever you want, and I'm gonna answer that questions or these questions. But if one of my previous guests already asked me that question, you gotta choose another one. So be original in this one.
Okay, how did you choose Northern Arizona University?
Nice question. No one had asked that one. I won a scholarship through the Arizona Board of Regents, and I was undecided between U of A, ASU, or NAU because they offer me the full right thing in any of them. And I chose NAU because I was like, I want to start from scratch because I don't know anyone in Flagstaff and I don't know how everything works there. And English is not my first language. So I was like, not many people speak Spanish in Flagstaff. So it was going to be like a good opportunity for me to grow as a person, as a student, and as a professional. So I was just like trying to start from scratch so I can push myself more.
Where do you see yourself in 10 years?
Working for an MLB team in the business area or marketing area, something like that. That's one of my dreams.
Awesome.
Yeah. And the other thing is my previous guest, who was actually this morning, his name is Carlos Garcia. He's an investor in Miami. And he asked you a question. And this is the question: what would you do different if you would need to start again?
What would I do different if I needed to start again?
Yeah.
Whew, that's a good question. I'm not sure if there'd be anything I'd do different if I had to
Anything
start
that you would like to
again.
change?
What's that?
Anything that you would like to change? Like if you would need to start from scratch again?
Um, Maybe get in the coaching a little bit sooner than what I did. When I retired from playing, I dabbled in some business ventures for about 4 or 5 years. and I
Oh,
waited to get into coaching. I tried to stay away from coaching because I had a family and I knew the hours and the grind it would be, um, and denied myself pursuing my passion. So if I was to do anything different or change, I'd probably just don't deny myself that, just get into it right away because I knew that's what I wanted to do. So
yeah. And what's the question that you want to ask to my next guest? We don't know who that person is, but you gotta ask that person a question.
the next guest, the question,
Yeah.
um, do they set goals for themselves, and if so, do they write them down?
Okay. I have heard a lot like when people write down their goals, they are more likely to achieve them, right?
Yes,
Do you do it?
I did when I was younger. Yeah, I used to when I was in college, getting my mind right to go pursue the NFL. I wrote down all my goals and put them all over my wall in my room in my bedroom at home growing up. And then I made a recording of me reading my goals that I had accomplished them and what they were. And then I went to bed every night listening to myself tell me that I achieved them and what my goals were. That's how I would go to sleep every night during when I was home for the summer before training camp start when I was in college. So I think that stuff is powerful. Like you said, you write it down, you're committing yourself a little bit more to it.
Yeah, and also like when you tell people your goals, it's kind of like you are committing even more because if you don't achieve them, people are gonna judge you, right? So it's kind of like another hack, you know. So I think I should start doing that as well. Well, Frank, again, thank you so much for being with me in Empower today. Is there anything else that you would like to add before we finish this episode?
No, I love what you're doing. You do a nice job, and I'm sure you're gonna have great success at some major league baseball team here in the future. Hopefully, it's with our hometown Diamondbacks.
I appreciate it. And for those people who are listening to this episode, please don't forget to share it in your Instagram stories. You can find me as at Luis Carlos Estrada. And the number two, Frank, is there any social media that you would like to send people to?
I don't have any. I guess I'm too old for that stuff.
All right. We'll send you a big hug and we'll see you in the next episode. Bye.